Welcome back, all you crazy 0 Point Review followers. We got a new episode of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Happy Turkey Day, everybody. Or it's already post Thanksgiving tradition, but we've all watched the movie regardless. Hey, Kevin, what do you remember from this movie? Did you see this when it first came out?
No, not at all.
Ooh,
Like everyone in my family loves this movie. I don't think I saw it until I was like 31 or 32.
shit.
So maybe 10 years ago, my
Okay.
wife made me watch it. And I remember everybody used to tell me it was really funny. But yeah, no, I didn't find it to be that.
Okay.
We'll get into that later. Go on. What you guys first?
Well,
This is my
had you
first
seen
time
this one
seeing it.
before? Or is
Nope,
this your
never
first
seen
time
it
watching it?
before.
Okay.
First time.
But it's a tradition for you, Jeff.
Relatively. I actually looked for like my DVD copy. I think that is in storage at my dad's from before I moved. So,
Oh,
thankfully recently I got the brand new 4K release they put out on this bad boy, which has like a ton of deleted scenes and whatnot with it. So you can find that out on the shelves now, but I actually watched this off of Pluto TV because of time constraints and what was going on over the Thanksgiving holiday.
so with the 4K edition, does it have the deleted scenes put back into the film,
No,
or is it? Oh, okay.
it's actually on a Blu-ray because the condition of the footage is some of it ranges from not bad to oh, that's rough. It looks like you're watching a very worn out VHS tape at times. But a lot of it's extended sequences, some of it's some deleted scenes. But I haven't gone through all of them yet, so I can't really say definitively whether some of it should have stayed with the movie or not, because I actually haven't seen it all, because it's a lot.
I
So
would
far,
be.
what's your impression? Good. Glad
Pretty.
they're out.
Yeah, some they could have definitely trimmed down. Some sequences are better than others, and some should have definitely stayed. But
Was
the
there
movie
like an
already has a long run time, so what they had to do, the finished product is definitely a good movie, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they trimmed it down from 3 hours down to 90 minutes. And that was something else. Like first it was 3 hours, and they cut it down to two,
Yeah,
and then Paramount wanted it down an extra 30. And they weren't happy with the production anyway, because because John Hughes, instead of building a set for the house, built an actual house for like 100 grand. And then they tore it down. Paramount's like, what the fuck was this?
yeah,
But at the very least, the set looked really nice,
yeah. I would say so. But
albeit
dang, on that
expensive.
budget.
Yeah, like $100,000 back in the, what was this, late 80s?
Yeah,
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
that's an
Hell, a
actor's
bit
salary.
kinda. That's for how much the Home Alone house was going for back then.
Yeah, maybe.
But I would also be interested to know if how many of the deleted scenes got recycled into Dutch,
Ooh,
because it looking back on it now, since we've just watched the two back to back,
yeah.
it's the same synopsis. Like it really is the same synopsis. It's like with Jurassic Park. Like everything from Jurassic Park 1 through 3 was all in the first book to Jurassic Park. They just took scenes that didn't fit in the previous movies.
All
So
right.
that's where I'm kind of like, well, did they do that with Dutch? Like things that they couldn't keep in the movie? Did they just put it out in a different flick with another pair of actors?
Very well could be. They could have like taken some script points that they didn't have for one and put it in the other, because you definitely have like a grown adult acting like a kid in John Candy, and in Dutch you had just a pompous little shit kid who you had to kind of watch what you did, otherwise the movie would go a bit too far.
Yes,
Can't
and
wake up having them in the same bed going, those aren't pillows.
pillows. That scene, do you think they could get away with that today?
No,
Yeah, like that scene
No.
was
they'd
all.
certainly try, but it wouldn't work.
No, I mean, like you want to laugh at it, but you're just kind of like, Every single joke in this scene is centered around toxic masculinity and homophobia. So it's like when you look at it that way, it's really not that funny.
Del, why
But
are
if you
you
could,
holding my hand? Why did you
yeah,
kiss my ear? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows? Those aren't pillows.
how would you not know that you didn't have 4 digits up your keister? Like, come on.
Well, it actually
When
could have
two,
been his legs. It didn't have to be like the behind.
well, like when two guys share a bed, it's either hole to hole or maybe pole to pole, but you never do hole to pole, which is what they did, and that's not a good idea.
Or you've got the European feet to head, but you can go take that in several different directions, really.
Yeah, that adds a whole extra variable to the equation. That makes it like all quantum and shit.
We're not
Right.
that deep on this review series, like at all.
It's like a Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat.
It's talking and not talking at the same time.
Kind of like yours.
Exactly my point.
No, but question for you guys. Speaking of the adventures that they were going through, and the first stop was the hotel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that scene later went on to the homophobia and toxic masculinity, but it started out a little bit more innocent. So, have either one of you guys ridden on one of those vibrating beds?
I have. But I knew better than to put a beer or a soda on it and let it jiggle and explode.
That would have been fantastic.
Well, my mom took me to Vegas when I was little, and some of those beds would vibrate. So all you needed was a few quarters and pop it in, and boom, there you go. But most of them were broken most of the time anyway, so it's like, your
Lame.
mileage varied on those.
I've never been in one of those before. I think it'd be fun as hell. Like trying to race them to the end of the room.
Surprised you didn't have one of those in the haunted hotel you stayed at when we did Exorcist. That would have been
No,
funny.
That seems like an appropriate place.
Yeah, right. No, I searched that entire room for any kind of bugs or mechanisms. It's nothing. But I will say this about that bed was comfortable as shit. And the fucking blankies were nice. I want to take those home.
Yeah, time to go back.
Yeah, I'd like to. But anyway,
I got a new blankie.
you got a new blankie?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a Sherpa.
Blankies.
Amazon Black Friday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
For the characters in this, do you think that Steve Martin was a redeemable character? Do you think he learned anything eventually, or did he remain a cocksucker throughout the entire fucking flick and then just decided, you know what? He's an ass, but I kind of like this guy and he tolerates me.
He seemed a bit ham-fisted until that final hotel scene after burning the car and they ran through the two semis and he was leaving him out there to sleep in the snow. I think at that moment he's like, when he said, what did I do to get hooked up with this guy? And it just clicks with him like, all right, whatever, come on inside. At that point, the shields are starting to crack for him. So he opens up his heart for the friendship, and they have like one of the best scenes in the whole movie is they're just drinking, partying, and acting like, why do I feel like I'm at summer camp?
That scene was cute.
Sleepover. Yeah. That scene was cute. I like that scene.
Well, that's where they started bringing the emotion into it.
Yeah.
And you really start to realize that not only is Candy's wife dead and he's just going from spot to spot, he's been doing that for 8 years. He's been traveling, hasn't been home in 8 years. Like, who knows if he even has a house left. So you're just really kind of like, your heart pours for Del.
Yeah.
Annoying as he is.
I had a suspicion that his wife was going to end up dead at one point, the way he was talking about her when he was out in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fucked up situation. It's a fucked up story. And it fits the story, but it almost doesn't with how funny you want it to be.
Yeah, the movie has a little bit of a problem in that it goes from slapstick to non-slapstick to zany to serious. So it keeps going from one side of the spectrum to the other, and it's kind of hard to find the middle ground going through it. Unlike with Dutch, it's largely on the right path and only just takes little diverges here and there. This one goes wide and then comes back, wide and then comes back. Like you, like I know we're gonna bring it up. Just to point it out in perspective, you got the whole F-bomb scene at the airport, which is a good, serious, funny comedy situation. But then you also had Del doing his laundry all over the damn place.
Mm.
Hey, I left my socks in the sink. If you're gonna brush your teeth, take them out.
That shit was just ill. It's
Yeah.
completely ill. And the only time I really laughed at that at the hotel scene was Steve Martin trying to dry himself with the fucking wash rag. Because like, who hasn't been there at some point?
I was just gonna say, like, who has not done that before?
Yeah, and I mean, when you're a kid, you could quickly get a towel by saying "mom" 3 times. Like, eventually,
Yeah.
a towel comes. But as an adult, no, that doesn't work.
Nope.
I can't really get into my shower without moving the towel. So,
Oh well, that's different.
That
Yeah,
could be an
that's handy.
organizational issue.
Yeah, there's been plenty of times where I like get out of the shower and I go to reach for my towel. It's like there's nothing in the basket. It's like, oh shit. Okay, well,
Guess I'm gonna air dry for the next hour.
oh yeah. I have
Happy
a
Turkey Day. There's your visual for the day.
I have
And
a
what was
leather
he gonna-
couch. It's not very absorbent.
what was he gonna do with his wet undergarments? Like they were completely soaked the next morning.
Well, he was
I
soaking
had-
them. He was actually washing them. He just hadn't wrung them out.
Left him to dry out in the snow.
He probably would have used the hair dryer in the hotel room to blow dry them out. Hey, when you're living in hotel rooms and you don't have an actual house, how are you gonna
Well,
do your laundry? You gotta save money where it counts. So
Yeah.
laundry in the bathroom.
Hey,
And
you could use a hair dryer as an air fryer with the right ingenuity.
Hey, write the new script for the remake.
I don't want a remake. They've
No.
remade this movie 5 times.
I knew
5.
this was familiar.
Let's go over.
Oh boy.
We've
Kevin's classroom.
the 5 movies that he made that all have the same concepts in them: Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Dutch, Home Alone. What was the other one? Home Alone 2,
There is no Home Alone 2.
and
Mm.
Uncle Buck. Like, all those movies involve people having flights diverted in the snow and needing to get back to Chicago somehow. So it's like, okay, man, it's a one-trick pony deal, but they spread it out into 5 different movies.
Hey, you find the formula, it works, you just try and tinker with it to make it better. And sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. Hey, I like John Hughes. I don't love like the constant formula that keeps going on.
He had a very noticeable formula.
Yep.
You could tell his pictures.
It's
Whether
like a
that be
Stephen
good
King
or bad.
book.
Yeah, it definitely has signatures. Stephen King.
Greaser Bullies.
If everybody dies by the end of the movie, it's a Stephen King book.
And if it's set in Maine, it's a Stephen King book.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a greaser bully, it's a Stephen King book.
Bazinga.
Henry Bowers.
Okay, guys, I'm going to ask a quick question. Who did you like most out of this? Was it Steve Martin or John Candy? And I'm not talking the characters. I'm talking who do you think portrayed their characters the best?
Golly, that's hard to say, because like, is Steve Martin really acting to become this character?
Or is this his real life persona? Ooh, the deep questions from Kevin today.
Kinda, because he's not known to be a nice guy per se. He's a wonderful artist.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a beautiful fucking musician. But given the fan and the situation, he's not having a reputation for being the nice dude. So I guess I would give that to Candy. Candy could play various different characters and be different and still be funny the same way every time. And in this, he just kind of stepped into a different character's shoes, and stepped out of his own shoes with what he normally did. So I think Candy was really the one that shone the most in this picture for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and you will?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say that kind of a thing. Like, I identified a lot with Steve Martin's character and what he was going through, because I've had situations like that, not necessarily with Adele, but yeah. And I understand the exasperation and the just complete fuck the universe at this moment. Like, just fuck it with a broomstick. Like,
Dahmer style.
yeah.
Like 4 fucking wheels in a
And-
seat, dude.
Yeah, yeah. And that struggle to not just lose it. And building, and then just like the dam bursts and cat hair goes flying everywhere.
The car goes up in flames. Everything goes flying everywhere.
I love that part with the semis and the car bursts into flames. That was when the movie really got me.
Yeah.
The only part about that I truly loved was their usage of Ray Charles music.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's the best usage of a Ray Charles song that I've seen, not so much since the movie Ray, but since the Blues Brothers and Shake a Tail Feather. Like,
ooh, nice.
that was just what was it? The Mess Around. Everybody do the mess around. That's a dope ass song. And Candy did it really well. It wasn't like watching Willy's Wonderland where you're like, is Nick Cage really listening to the same song we're hearing right now?
Or is it someone in his head? Yeah.
But no, I really liked that song in the car scene. Otherwise, the car scene was just really kind of silly to me.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I'm just kind of like, maybe if I would have seen this years ago, like before I'd seen Tommy Boy, I'd find this a lot funnier than what I did.
Oh yeah, this definitely led to some
Yeah.
influence across other movies.
Oh, sure.
And just it even goes to the point that I thought John Candy was basically seen stealing the whole movie, like say a Chris Farley would through most of his movies. It's not,
Yeah.
of course he was the star, but he was literally stealing scenes from equally awesome characters and actors. And it's like, damn, dude's got presence. And he just kept turning on the different facets of the character like nobody else could. And so he showed his range a lot more than Steve could, who had to play the straight man the whole time.
Yeah, I'd say Candy did a really good job. And like you said, he did a lot of different angles of the same character that all added up to make a very believable and realistic character. Like, and you did, I mean, I'm an asshole, and even I kind of felt for him towards the end of the movie when it turned out that he's just kind of like a drifter kind of guy. And yeah, I thought it was cool that Steve Martin took him home at the end.
Can we keep him?
That's the
Well, at
kind of
least
look
then he
they got
has-
at the end.
Well, and then he has like someone to back up his story of everything that had happened, because if he went home and tried to tell that story on his own, his wife might think he was off cheating or something, or who knows.
Well, no phone calls. If the wife wasn't thinking it, like, what is going on?
It reminds me of
Well, you see, honey, we were on a train, but the conductor did something stupid, and so now we're walking through a field. And we're going to get to the highway, and then they're going to take us to a town, and then we're going to take a bus. I'll see you soon.
Just make sure you take a picture. It'll last longer.
yeah, right. That was funny.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
The rental car scene when he gets dropped off by the rental car shuttle.
I think anybody who's ever rented a car can relate to that scene. Not so much that the car wasn't there, but just the overall frustration with the rental experience is just like, that's it. Fucking done.
That scene really made me that was the one scene that I was able to sum this movie up in one sentence. This is a 3-hour Norman Krasner movie.
Touche.
Come on, everyone. Use your own. It is.
And
It
for the-
so is. Like that time when he was at the hotel with the taxidermist convention. Yeah, Isis agrees. She's seen it enough.
Is for you guys at home, if you don't know who Norman Krasner is, there was a series of Canadian shorts that had a character named Norman who everything that he was doing went wrong. And that's what this movie is. And I have problems with a long movie like that. Like Norman shorts are very cool because they're made fun of half the time by riff tracks. But when you get long pictures, say like this, Meet the Fuckers, Spider-Man 2, where it's nothing but like 2-3 hours of God just shitting on somebody and like nothing goes wrong in there, nothing goes right in their life. Like, how long can you watch that before it's kind of like, okay, I'm really tired of seeing this guy get shit on?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for as much as I hate Ben Stiller, it's like his acting. For as much as I don't like Ben Stiller's acting, I'm just kind of like, oh my God, will you please stop shitting on this fucking guy, or I'm just gonna go home. I don't want to watch this no more.
Clearly, you need to see Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder would be a great movie if they cut his scenes out. If he would have not had his scenes in there.
Hot take.
Most of the POW scenes were kind of meh for me. Everything else that he'd written in that movie was pure gold. It's the only movie that I like Tom Cruise in. It's the only movie that I like fucking Matthew McConaughey in. Everything else is fantastic about that picture, except his character.
So you can. So if you dodge a Ben Stiller, you can't dodge a ball. Okay.
What about a Doge ball?
The doucheball. Ben Stiller's a fantastic writer. I love his writing.
Yeah. I crack jokes. I don't mind them too bad, but for them, I don't like them in like the super zany comedies like say Zoolander and whatnot. I mean, I like Dodgeball and I like Tropic Thunder. I like Night at the Museum movies. That's kind of about the end of my love for Ben Stiller.
Meet the Parents was
The first one was okay, but it starred Terry Pullo from our Brimstone episode.
That's true. It's true.
Well, for the two movies anyway.
That's right. And I had to look that up. I forgot she was in that too. I didn't even forget. I didn't realize. I'm like, oh shit, is that who that is?
Yeah.
Who knew she was 800 years old?
Evil incarnate from 800 years ago.
No, the two shiny stars from this movie for me, one like we were just talking about is Edie McClurg. She ad-libbed her entire scene right there with Steve Martin, mainly because
Wait, which scene?
Where he's trying to get the rental car.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's the rental lady, yeah.
He says fuck 19 times in 60 seconds.
It's got to be a record.
At the time, yes, I think it was. And Edie McClurg was told by John Hughes basically to just kind of do whatever she feels. Like no lines had been written for her. Like people say he's very good at letting people do what they want.
Yeah.
To me, that's another way of saying, I don't know what to do. You try.
Or trusting the actors and the comedians to come up with something witty on the fly.
Yeah. And like Edie McClurg's a really quick lady. So it's like that scene was really funny for her. Like saying fuck 19 times in 60 seconds. What a fucking amateur.
Well, it started off with her being super sweet, talking on the phone about the turkey and everything.
Yeah.
That was great though. I mean, that scene was really perfect.
Yes. She is fuck you. You're fucked.
May I help you?
But
yes.
And then speaking of getting off the fucking train, walking to the country and then getting a ride, Dylan Baker, who most people might know as Professor Connors in Spider-Man 2, again, talking about God punching down on somebody. not because he had his arm ripped off. Just Peter got
So-
anyway. Yeah, his Owen character was not scripted. None of his mannerisms were scripted or were requested by John Hughes. John Hughes basically gave him free reign and told him to do something to gross out Steve Martin. And so he had the fucking chaw in his mouth, was being a real ass to the lady. And apparently the lady was having a super hard time trying not to bust up.
That was so awesome. She's a thin little one. She can do it.
Yeah. And like when my wife was
Baby,
pregnant,
come out sideways. She didn't even blink. But I used to say that all the time. Every time my wife was pregnant, she got a strong back. Let her get it. She got a strong back. No, we got it. We got it.
His character, he wanted to make it as gross as possible. And he did, to the point where he actually spit in his hand in real life and then reached out to shake Steve Martin's hand. So that reaction of pure like disgust was
That's
real.
legit. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what people said John Hughes was known for. No, that's not guerrilla style directing. Guerrilla style directing is what Bill Friedkin did during The Exorcist. This
Yeah.
to me was just kind of lazy. Like you got
Yeah, I
some
could
really
see how
good
you
people
think
in
that.
there. They're kind of going off what they know how to do. I don't know that he necessarily brought the best out of them to do it.
No, he would have had to have written more attuned to what their strengths are, and they did play to their strengths a little bit, but comedies are known for being the most difficult script to write for, because you are assuming your joke is going to land, and you have to present it like every joke is going to be a hit, and oftentimes it's not. You watch comedies, you're like, that's not funny. That's not funny. Okay, that thing was funny, but like the rest of the movie is not funny. It's like somebody actually wrote all of that script and put it together and thought this whole thing is funny. So it's really hard to do a comedy and for it to actually turn out as good as it did. This one, I think, succeeded despite the weakness in some of the writing and the wild swings it took.
My problem is Steve Martin's tolerance. Because when I've been in that kind of a situation, there's no way in hell I would let somebody sleep with their head on my shoulder, let alone two motherfuckers.
No, you mean on the
he-
airplane? Yeah.
Yeah. Or like the guy babbling the ear off on the airplane. Like, I don't know. I guess that was my kind of main issue with it, but I got over that the farther it went along, because it seemed more believable as like he's just this suffering guy just being shat on by the universe, like you said. Just like the shower. I mean, even like in the Norman short, the shower turns off while he's in the middle of like washing his face. At least Steve Martin washes his face off instead of just like rubbing the dried soap in when like Norman does.
Use water from the back of the toilet. It's cleaner.
It's cleaner.
Oh shit. Oh, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but I'll forget if I don't say it now. He took the concept and redid it 6 times. I forgot about Clark Griswold, who's really just another version of Steve Martin's character.
Yeah.
6 times. 6 times, John.
Hey, Clark is awesome.
Clark is awesome. Clark wasn't in this movie.
But like other actors that you've brought up, Chevy Chase isn't known for being the nicest of fellows.
No, he's known for being one of the bigger douchebags of Hollywood. And I don't mean that because he's 7 feet tall.
Yep.
Which he is.
What?
Yeah, he's like close to 7 foot. He's a tall motherfucker. He's like Jonah.
He's
Only
a tall dude.
Jonah's super nice.
I don't think he's
Yeah.
legitimately close to 7 feet, but he's like what, 6'6"?
Something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, because like he was really standing next to other basketball players in Fletch.
Yeah.
So
That is a fun movie. I do like Fletch. The second one, not so much.
I didn't bother with Fletch 2.
Yeah,
Fletch
it's
1
all
was
right,
perfect.
but Fletch 1 is
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
saw that
That's a
one
chef's
time.
kiss for Chevy Chase.
That was a good one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to ask you guys as we wrap up here. Are we going to go thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs down?
I'm going in the middle. I want to say it's thumbs down, only because I truly don't necessarily like this movie as a whole. But it is a significant movie. It has its place in history, and it has a huge fan base. So I really can't say it's a bad movie. It just didn't click with me.
It hit in certain spots with me, but at other times it was kind of hard to keep my attention focused. Well, it held my attention, but there are times when it was like, okay, this is not really believable. Like that he's just gonna put up with all of this shit on top of everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I guess he didn't seem as exasperated as I would expect somebody in that situation to be. He just seemed more short.
And that's his
And-
friend. Sorry, Martin Short. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was pretty much all of it. It was just it didn't, like you said, the writing was kind of weak in spots.
Yeah, it's the 80s. I mean, you have to forgive that sort of thing.
A lot of those movies,
Like, a
not
lot of
just
the
John
80s.
Hughes, yeah, a lot of them meandered too much. Some of them just kind of had bad pacing issues for whatever reason. Some of them were just directed in odd ways. And you look back in hindsight and you're like, they could have done this, they could have done that, they could have done this, and it would have made the movie a lot better. But back then, they were just trying to churn them out because they were quick and they were cheap.
Which is a Paramount thing.
Well, Universal too back then too. Let's not sugarcoat it and be like, oh, it's only Paramount. No, it was other studios doing the same thing. Like, hey, we could point at Police Academy movies almost all night long and be like, yeah, the first one's good, but it also play the second and the third one are a little bit hit or miss. You know, you can go down the line for all those, but for me, I'm going to go a little more towards the thumbs up side, only because of my memories of this as a kid. I grew up with this movie a bit. I had the VHS tape. I wore it out until it snapped. And but I will say, rewatching it now, I gotta say there are some pacing issues. There is some inconsistencies going on with the movie. Like it cannot stay with its tone all the way through. It just keeps going up and down instead of finding a nice little balance. I'm not going to say it's completely inconsistent. I just feel it's a little unbalanced at times. So, but it is a fun movie. John Candy, I think, is what really makes this work. Anybody else playing this role, I don't know if this movie really would have turned out to be as endearing as it can be. Otherwise, I'm going to say, hey, Planes, Trains, Automobiles, I'm going to give you a thumbs up, but it's not a double thumbs up.
Fair.
Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at sunsandshadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.